Philip Melanson, author of the recent book The Merkin Conspiracy, has made a special study of this issue.
I questioned Sam Evans about the withdrawal of the tactical units because this was a very important matter. Evans told me clearly and forcefully that the tactical units were withdrawn at the request of the Reverend Samuel Kiles, a man in King's entourage, and that he, Evans, had received the order, the request from Mr. Kiles, and had acceded to it. And he told me that flatly 2 years ago.
Could Melanson's book refresh Sam Evans' memory?
No, I didn't pull my men back.
Why is Sam Evans now being evasive on this important issue? Is it because the official excuse for removing the tacked cars just does not ring true?
For someone in the SCLC to have instructed, quote-unquote, the Memphis police to move back those tactical units would be laughable in that situation, and it's absurd to think that the Memphis Police Department would have acceded to that request. These tactical units were riot control forces that were there to keep the lid on the Lorraine and monitor King, and if he or anybody in his party had told them to move back, I think they would have increased the surveillance net or begun to look more sharply for trouble. It's unthinkable that they would simply be that accommodating.
In Memphis, there is evidence that the Secret Service did influence the activities of the police. Ed Reddit was a detective in a surveillance post at the fire station.
Oh, you can see the back, or you can see all of the courtyard of the Lorraine. In fact, the office, the whole bit from there, all the way down to the corner of the building. You can see everything around Lorraine. And Lieutenant Larkin arrived and stated that I was wanted at the headquarters. I said, for what? He said, I don't know, just get in the car, let's go. I was told to bring you back. As I viewed the room, there appeared to be numerous law enforcement people from all of the various agencies, local, the county, state, and nationally. Director Frank Holloman stated that the man standing across from me was a Secret Service from Washington, stating that there was a contract out on my life. At that time, he told Lieutenant Larkin to take me home and wait until someone arrived to guard me. Once we arrived at my house, while seated in the car awaiting the security for me, being there, I imagine, no more than 5 or 10 minutes, the radio blasted out Dr. King had been shot.
From various sources, we've been able to piece together that the information about the assassination attempt on Detective Reddit did indeed come direct to Chief Holloman from a Secret Service man in Washington. This departmental communication reveals that by 4:15 that afternoon, Lieutenant Arkin of the Memphis Police Department had been alerted by a phone call from the FBI that the assassination threat attributed to Reddit was a mistake. So why was Chief Holloman sending Reddit home at 5 p.m.? 3/4 of an hour later, he testified to Congress that he was not told of the mistake at that time. Lieutenant Arkin, then head of the Police Intelligence Unit, can have no such excuse. He received the phone call and then personally took Reddit home. The reasons for his actions are unexplained. He refused to be interviewed for this program.
The Reddit affair represents the distraction of the Memphis Police Department by a false intelligence report from Washington that was inputted into the Memphis Police Department within hours before the assassination, and that seemed to have distracted everyone in the department to the extent that they were off on missions and having meetings, and that's very significant. The fact that Reddit had a different assignment is not the entire affair. Where that information came from about a false threat, why and how it was taken seriously, and what its distraction factor was, is the importance, and I think that has yet to be fathomed.
Floyd Newsom, a black fireman at the same station, was also inexplicably moved to another part of town that day.
The company that I worked on consisted of 7 men, and the company could not work. It was out of service with less than 5 men. And on this particular day, I was the 5th man. So when they took me off of the company, they left the company with 4. They detailed me to a company that had a sufficient number of men. And the company that I should have been on was short. So they had to detail somebody there to replace me. I asked Deputy Chief Barnett why I was moved, and he said I was moved at the request of the police department.
My name is Jerry Williams. I'm a retired Memphis policeman. During the time of Dr. King's assassination, I was working the Homicide Bureau of Memphis Police Department. And on 2 previous occasions when Dr. King would come to Memphis, I was assigned to head his security team. But the last time he came, there were no black officers assigned for that security.
Why?
Well, I really don't know. I just know that I reported to work on the morning of Dr. King's assassination, and I was told by my inspector that we would not be on the assignment.
In the famous Lau photograph of the associates of Dr. King pointing away from the motel and toward the rooming house, there was for a long time a mystery about the person who was kneeling over Dr. King checking him for life signs. That person was Merrill McCullough, who somehow, on hearing the shot, instantly streaked up the stairs to the balcony and checked Dr. King. He was an undercover operative for the Memphis Police Department, but reporting directly to an intelligence officer of the Memphis Police Department.
Part of a web of covert action conducted by the security forces in Memphis, Merrill McCullough was just one of the shadowy figures involved. We learned from a police source that the owner of the Lorraine Motel was a police informer. So was Dr. King's chauffeur. The FBI had informers among black groups in Memphis and in the heart of King's party, the SCLC.
This man, Merrill McCullough, was a Vietnam veteran. He was described. He was a member of the Invaders. The Invader group was a group around Dr. King. They had been totally penetrated by police agents. It was Merrill McCullough, who was one of the last people to stand over Dr. King's body, who supposedly established the trajectory from the flophouse window to where Dr. King killed. And he said, I feel that I know this because I'm a Vietnam veteran. What he did not say is that he was also a police agent.
The first man to reach Dr. King was a man called Merrill McCullough. He was part of the 111th Military Intelligence Group. He was ostensibly a Memphis Police Department undercover agent. He had been called back to active duty in June of 1967, seconded to the Memphis Police Department, and then he infiltrated a neighborhood group called the Invaders. So he was in that with them, and when Martin King was shot, he was the first one to reach him and check him for life signs. So they were very heavily there.
A photographer on the scene documented the next few critical minutes.
The police were coming at that time with drawn guns, asking where the shot come from, and the people you see pointing were saying it came from there.
Someone firing from the bushes would have had a similar view of his target as someone firing from the rooming house.
I started pointing to the rooming house. That's the only place that it looked like it could have come from.
Not that you heard the shot from there?
No, I didn't know where the shot came from. Now, it could have also come from the bushes.
But strangely, the next morning, the bushes were all cut down.
Somebody gave an order in the middle of the night to go out and cut down that underbrush, so that when the sun came up on the 5th of April, the bushes were no longer there.
To Young, it smacks of cover-up. But the Memphis police say they cut the brush away to help, not hurt the investigation. Still, the motel area was not properly sealed off to protect evidence, and at least some key witnesses were never interviewed.
Then I see this figure directly at eye length coming out of a crouched position in this bushes. When you look directly across from my doorway, you were looking at thicket.
Dr. King's driver, Solomon Jones, later told Caldwell and another reporter he too saw someone in the bushes.
He said he saw this figure from the bushes, but he actually saw even the puff of smoke from the shot being fired from there. I quoted him in my story that was in the New York Times the next day.
The two reporters interviewed others who also said they saw something.
How many people saw somebody in the bushes?
At least a half a dozen.
And some of them say they saw a rifle?
Yes.
And do you believe that's where the shot came from?
Absolutely.
Solomon Jones, King's chauffeur, was standing under the balcony when King was shot.